SFB out here, another video game. Let's see, what we're doing here is a tournament matchup between Gorn and Vudar using the SFB Cadet module. And the interesting thing is here is that we're using tournament ships, which means the SSDs that we're using aren't actually in the client. We're literally using a paint program to do the SSDs, and we just send the damaged image back and forth to each other over Discord. And then after the game's over, we can delete the images off of Discord. Okay, so here we are. We're setting up what's going to be in the sub-phases because we don't have any Romulans or Lyrans or Sultorians. So we can get rid of those out of the sequence of play. We're using a Paladin counter for the Vudar because the Vudar counter set doesn't exist in the Cadet module. And here we have the tournament ships. I've got them loaded up in the paint program GIMP on this side. Now these are the SSDs that ADB gives away for free. They're available online, StarFleetGames.com, in the player resources section. So the Vudar has 4 ion cannons, and 6 phaser 1s, 2 phaser 2s, 2 phaser 3s. The Gorn has got 2 S's, 2 F's, 9 phasers, 8 of which are phaser 1s, 2 of which are phaser 3s, 2 fake S torps, no fake F torps. And this is Discord. And we're actually doing our energy allocations in a spreadsheet and emailing the spreadsheets back and forth. I'm just configuring my windows here so that I have the information that I want on screen. Gorn coming in speed 16, Vudar coming in speed 20. And of course, Kunavis is a new player, so he's getting used to the interface. Here he's accidentally moved his ship by accidentally dragging it with his mouse. There we go. That can happen because if your mouse is near the border, it'll suddenly start scrolling the map. At this point I'm explaining how to use the keypad, number pad, to move the ship instead of using the mouse. Now both of us know how to play SFB, so right here I'm just doing the sequence of play as an example as what it should be. And the two of us are discussing that, well, we're both experienced players and we know what the sequence of play is, so we don't need to go through that tool every single turn or every single impulse, so we're about to close that and we'll just use the speed caller instead. Now I did have this set up with OBS Studio to record both our microphones, but I screwed up and forgot to actually click on and highlight the 2 sound feeds, so we'd end up not having any sound at all, which is why I'm narrating the game again. Not much happens here for the first half to 2/3 of the first turn. We just basically close and maneuver a bit. And we're calling the impulses rapidly until we get to about range 18 or so. I think here we're having a bit more discussion on the keypad and turning. So I'm telling him to imagine his ship as the number 5 key on the keypad. 8 would be to go forward, 9 would be to turn right, 7 would be to turn left, a 6 would be a side slip to the right, a 4 would be a side slip to the left, 2 would be an HET directly backwards. A 1 and a 3 would be an HET backwards to the left and to the right. And here I'm showing him, or explaining to him, the line of sight and the range. Oh, and here I'm suggesting that he might want to use the turn mode and slide slip counters and where they are and how he can get them. You can use the slime trail, but the slime trail sometimes can be accidentally cleared. So we use an S for side slip and a T for turn mode marker. The interesting thing about the S and the T is that even though they are part of the racial set of counters, which are normally all locked down, the side slip and the turn mode are not locked down, so anybody can actually move them. I just found it a little bit annoying with some players that were brand new that they would have trouble trying to move them. So I left them as something that can be moved by anybody. Now, as you can see here, I've got the map on the bottom half of the screen and the chat for the top half of the screen. It's kind of hard to do this for a video. Normally when I'm just playing a game, I use the map on one monitor all by itself, and I use the chat on another window all by itself, so I get a much better view of the map, so I don't have to be as zoomed out as this is. But when doing it for a video, I have to kind of fit it all on one monitor. So I apologize for the small size of the counters, but it's kind of the best we can do kind of thing. I'm sure in the future I can get a little bit better with OBS Studio and have just the map on screen and just temporarily bring the other windows on as we want to show things. Oh, here I went to do the line of sight and I accidentally moved my ship. It would actually be easier to run the OBS Studio as an observer, recording a game between two other players. That way I could concentrate on highlighting a specific window that I wanted to bring to the camera view kind of thing. But anyway. So here I adjusted the map, make it a little bit bigger, but now I'm covering up part of the chat area. So we'll lose a little bit of the chat area as I toggle back and forth. And that's the rule set that we're using. It's pretty much standard tournament rules. That's the window I'm looking for. All my expendables and plasma torpedoes and all that. Grabbing my own turn mode and side slip. And we have some speed changes coming up here in a minute. I'm just noticing that I don't have speed change announcement in my sequence of play steps. So both ships are now speed 26. It looks like the Gorn has the worst turn mode, so the Gorn moves first in the Vudar, using the Paladin counters. Gets to move second. I think Gorn's contemplating launching plasma here, but wants the Vudar to turn before he does. And there's the turn. And here comes the plasma launch. And we're using plasma cards to record the pseudo-real status. So right now the Gorn's filling that out in another window. Gorn will be launching 2 S torpedoes, A tube and B tube, one of which will be real, one of which will be fake. There's 2 settings on the card, masked and visibility. So right now, Gorn player's filling out the card, will then place them on the map, and then toggle the visibility, leaving it masked. And then once a torpedo hits and is revealed, you undo the masking to reveal what it is. Now the interesting thing about the visibility, or invisibility, is that the owning player, when it's invisible, can see it and can see through the mask. But nobody else can. Okay, so right now the first card and second card are on the map. They're both invisible. But they are filled out. Turn, impulse, unit of launch, type of torpedo, tube. I think we're having a little discussion here as to the tubes and tracking. And now I'm placing on the actual counters themselves for the plasmas, naming them. I accidentally did a typo on one of them. It should be 19, not 18. There we go. I think here we're having that conversation about knowing which torpedo came from what tube on the impulsive launch, but after that, he really doesn't know which one's which, kind of thing. Although he does always know the strength of the warhead and the damage on the warhead. Explaining that if I launched them sequentially over 2 impulses, he would always know which one was A and which one was B. But the fact that they're both in the same hex, he wouldn't. But explaining that both would be real, both would be fake, or one would be real and one would be fake. And in a moment here, I'm going to realize I haven't toggled the cards from visibility, so I'll catch on to that in a second. There we go, there's the visibility. I accidentally forgot the mask on that one, so I literally gave away the status on that card by revealing it like that. There we go. That one was masked properly. Yeah, you gotta make sure your card is both masked and invisible. When you turn off the invisibility, it's gotta be masked already, otherwise they see the card. The plasma that I revealed to him was actually a real torpedo, so if he saw it, then he would know it would be real, but it doesn't really matter. But he would have to have had that card on screen on his map in order to see that, so he may not have seen that. And here launching 2 shuttles. I was commenting on whether or not the Gorn tournament kept the balcony and track or not. I couldn't remember. I don't think they get balcony and track in tournament. myself, I'm not too familiar with the Vudar rules. All I know is that it's a direct fire weapon and they've got some sort of shuttle defense thing that'll apply damage at a radius. That pretty much makes drones and shuttles toast kind of thing. So I typically would normally come in with a suicide, at least one or two. But this game I decided not to come in with any. I apologize, I forgot to show you the energy allocation form for turn 1. Basically, it's a pretty straightforward allocation. -1 speed change, a little bit of reinforcement. I think I directly paid for tractor beam, and there's no special shuttles. And I forgot to ask my opponent to send me his energy allocation form so that I would have it for making the video. Okay, we have another plasma launch. F-torp. I'm just reminding myself which one was which. I forgot to set the target. Of course, the only legal target is the Vudar ship itself. So here I type in the target. Oh, there, I accidentally turned off the masking, but it's still invisible. There we go. If you toggle invisibility, you can see through it. And I'm making sure I got Vudar set for all the targets. The only possible target. A, B, and D tube. I forgot to put the counter on the map for the F. There we go. And of course you can use the units on map window to highlight the unit you want to move, and then use the number pad to move the unit. That's what I've just done. So we're at 2/3 mark for the first turn, 23rd impulse. Don't know why. Normally I usually move my counters with my number pad, but in this particular game, for some reason, I was using my mouse a lot. That was causing the map to scroll on me quite a bit. It is actually better to use the number pad. And the way the movement gets reported to chat is a little bit different between mouse and number pad. And here I'm taking a look at my turn radius, I think. And when you use it by your mouse, it just says moved from hex to hex. But when you use it with a number pad, it says has moved from hex by going forward or by turning. So it gives you a little bit more information as to how it moved. And there is a setting inside the preferences where you can turn both of them on so that they both get reported. Although that can get a little bit confusing for some people when they don't realize that you're just getting the 2 copies of the report. Moving twice when it's only moved once. Hey, Vudar's finally decided that they do not wish to fire. Gorn's completing his turn mode. And here the Vudar is about to HET directly A. And he's asking exactly how to do that on the keypad. So because of the orientation of his ship, he would want it number 3. HET back to the right. There we go, he HETs. Places the turn marker. And Plasma Mosquito Chase. And here I'm just taking a look at my shuttles for the range. Because since he's HET, they're not going to get any closer. So I don't want to fire their phaser 3s, so just seeing if they're within range 8. And I'm also looking up what impulse they were launched because I forget. Oh, here I'm looking at it. Looks like they were launched in the 20th impulse, which means it's the 29th. So they do have their phasers up. It's a good thing about having the chat. If you forget something, you can always scroll back up and take a look. Normally I would launch the shuttles and put turn and impulse of launch on the label, but forgot to. Using the phaser 3 at range, 4 to 8. Filling in that we're firing 2 dice. Clicking OK. And miss and miss. Side slipping back up. Getting ready to turn. Normally when there's multiple counters in one hex, you can double click. It'll separate them and you can move them. But for some reason here it wasn't doing that. So I went to my units on map list, highlighted them one by one, and then moved them there. So there's still a little bit of a few oddities happening here and there inside the client. We're using version 3.64 of the client. I think 3.65 is out. I'll have to take a look at that and upgrade it. And there the double clicking is working. So it's like one of those intermittent things. Sometimes it seems to work and sometimes it seems to not. I think here we were, he was asking what the strength of the warheads were, I think. I completely forgot the hit and run tables were on the SSDs for tournament ships. There we go, he's firing his 2s and his 3s, both at Plasma A. And Plasma A is the fake one. The pseudo. And there's the roll. It's Gorn double checking his turn mode. So we're doing energy allocation here. Again, a pretty straightforward energy allocation. I think I put in speed of 26 again. Put in 2 points in tractor and 1 point in transporter, or half a point in transporter, something like that. This Impulse 14 thing, that's from his graphical copy of the speed collar that he's got open in his game window. He's accidentally clicked on it. So yeah, you can have open your own copy of the Impulse chart for reference in your own SSD area. Alright, clued in and finally put manage allocation form on the screen that you can actually see it. Noticing here my balance error is negative 38. That's because I forgot to fill in the power at the top. There we go. And we did assign guards there. The little red dots is a note for this is turn 1 of army, turn of army for both those two torpedoes. Putting in a password on the spreadsheet. I provide that to the opponent after the game. You can either email your spreadsheet back and forth, So the password for turn 1 was turn 1, and for turn 2 it's turn 2. And here I'm placing it into Discord to send it to my opponent. As you can see, we've got a Vudar ship there pasted already. That's how we're sending the damaged ships back and forth to one another. And as you can see, after we're done sending them, we can delete them off the server. That way ADB's copyright stuff isn't floating around online. Although it shouldn't matter because that stuff's all available for free on their website. And here the plasmas finally hit. I reveal the masking. So he shot A, which is pseudo, and B is real, which was not shot at. We're looking at the range as traveled. I believe it's a 22-pointer at this point. And he's revealing he's got a 19-point brick, if I remember correctly. It has 11 reinforcement, not 19. Now I'm going into my GIMP paint program. And for some reason I accidentally closed my paint tool. I'm going to bring my paint tool back up. There you go. It's kind of interesting. The boxes that I've chosen to scratch off on my copy of the SSD are exactly the opposite ones that my opponent did. So where I did the right side, he did the left side. Now I'm walking him through how to copy and paste from MS Paint into Discord to update the SSD. As you can see, the first time he did it, he did the entire screen rather than just cropping the image. But anyway, it lets us see what the damage is without actually having the SSDs inside the client. And again, those images get deleted off of Discord when we're done. And that F-torp is about to peter out here. I think that disappears on the end of the second impulse. Yeah, here I just realized I can turn. We can turn and do that. I think I clue in here in a second that my torpedo just dissipated. It's at one point at this impulse 4. More bathtub struggles to turn. There we reveal the F-torp as having petered out. Yeah, I think here's where I decide not to side slip, but instead turn. Maybe I'm misremembering. Or maybe it's here where I do it. Yeah, I think it's here because I'm looking at my torpedoes. I'm looking at what tubes have been launched. And which side is A and B, C and D for left side and right side of the ship. And now I'm realizing my armed torpedo is on the left side of the ship with the left side arc. So here I advise my opponent that I'm going to undo my movement and turn instead. There we go. I knew that happened somewhere. Yeah, A is on the left side of the ship. It was a pseudo, so the A tube is on that left side, left portion, so I had to bring it towards to bring it to arc. So I actually have one S and one F on board the ship, not just one F. And here I'm just estimating when I'm going to get shot with his direct fire weapons. Whether or not I should launch my plasmas first, etc. Or hold them. Here I could have been trying to be cute and launch my other F torp, or not my F torp, my other pseudo S, but the likelihood is he would have realized it would have been fake. So another torpedo being launched. That'll be real. Unfortunately, it couldn't be the F torp because it's not an arc yet. So it had to be the S. I would have preferred to have launched it as the F torp, but the hex rows are off by 2. Something that I've noticed for most Gorn players, that they're more apt to launch their heavier torps before they are their weaker torps. Unfortunately, filling out the plasma cards takes a little bit of time. Got to record everything down. So that's what I'm doing in another window. And I'm firing. Right side phaser 1s, 5 and 6. Also trying to see if I could get the Vudar to fire at this range. 2 damage. Pretty negligible damage. Waiting for him to update his SSD explaining to him how to do it with MS Paint so that he doesn't have to grab the entire screen, but instead crop it first and then copy it. Here I'm identifying what control it is and where it's at. The interesting thing is it's under in the merge section, I think. It says clipboard and then merge, I think. Click, hold, drag, and copy, and then paste. And there he goes, he figured it out. Basically, I'm being really hard on my opponent here, kind of forcing him to use a lot of software he's probably never used before. So he's playing the game and he's doing unfamiliar things with software. So I'm sure that's thrown him off on his game a little bit. Of course, at the same time I'm playing this, I've got the flu, or pneumonia, I should say. I can't remember what's happening here. I think he's contemplating fire, yeah. Yep, so here's where he unloads. 6 phasers, 2 overloaded ion cannons at Gorn. Oh, he's firing 2 overloaded cannons. I think he means 2 overload, 2 standards. I think he rolls 4. To update his SD. There we go. And the neat thing about having the Discord for the images is you can scroll back through the images and you can see what damage was applied and what progression. I'm waiting for his rolls. So 18 from the Vudar phasers. 5 reinforcement, 13 to the shield. 13 so fat, 13 so far. So again, he did fire 2 overloads and 2 standards. Even though the chat area is only saying he's only firing 2, he did fire 4. And he missed with 3 of them. But he did hit with one of his 2 overloads for 12. So 12 and 13, 25 to the shield. I might be marking that off in the other window. Yeah, there we go. So down to a 5-point shield on the number 6 on the Gorn. So far the Vudar's gotten the better of the exchange so far. Gorn turns. So yeah, I forgot to put his turn marker down. There was some discussion of something or other going on here. I forget what. It might have been the strength of the torpedo or something like that. Or impulsive launch, etc. I know what it was. He was looking at an emer-decel declaration. So he had declared emergency deceleration. So on the 17th, he's coming in at speed 0. That's what was going on. So on the 17th, I believe that's when he's now at speed 0. And there we go. We are now speed 0. 1 S-torp on the board, and it's real. And here he's asking what the explosion period is on the Weasel, etc. He's contemplating launching the Weasel now or waiting for the plasma to get closer, then launching. I'm kind of explaining, well, I don't got any phasers left, so it's not going to make a bit of difference. So the question is whether or not he wants to have the Weasel blow up when it's in the same hex as his ship, or in a hex adjacent to the ship. So at this point he's taking out the counter, naming it, changing the orientation, etc., and is about to put it on the map. Again, slightly new player to the interface, so it takes him a little bit of time to do various things. He's got to find out where the menu is, what buttons, etc. And here we're asking him what speed he wants the shuttle to be. I think he's consulting his movement chart to see when the shuttles move and at what speeds on impulses. And again, determining that speed 5 is the first one that moves. Now I'm playing this game back and doing the commentary in real time. Once I've done that, I think I'll loop it around again a second time and try and speed up the game a little bit. Maybe speed it up 20% or so. Try not to make my voice sound too much like Mickey Mouse. As it is, I think the game here lasted 2 hours and 15 minutes thereabouts. There we go, back into the action again. So the Vudar has 2 phaser 2s and 2 phaser 3s still left on board a ship unfired. Whether or not they are powered or not, I don't know. Gorn's trying to maneuver around here so that he kind of keeps that down shield away from the Vudar. Probably would have been better to turn immediately. Oh, no, he hasn't. Gorn's not able to turn yet. So the Gorn can either slip out and away and then turn back in, or turn immediately. Either, yeah, there we go. Gorn's slipping out and away. Trying to keep that range open a bit. Keep the down shield away from the Vudar as long as possible. And here, if the Gorn wants to do what he wants to do, he's got no choice but to turn. So, there we go. Wild Weasel protection period. There's a reveal. It is a real plasma. That kills the shuttle dead. No collateral damage. So the Gorn now has 2 phaser 3s, 1 rear firing RAR phaser 1, and 1 F-torp on board the ship, as well as 2 shuttles still in the bay. And here the Gorn's wondering why the hell he's not being shot on the down shield. I think the Vudar's waiting for his active fire control to come up. Fire control is now up. Vudar still has not fired. Still a down shield towards the Vudar. And the Gorn turns. And the down shield is still towards the Vudar. Down shield is again towards the Vudar. So 29th impulse. Solid shield facing the Vudar. again, down shield facing the Vudar. And here the Gorn wants to be off the number 4 of the Vudar, but I would point that mostly down shield towards him. So instead of shooting the damage number 4, he's going to have to shoot through a fresh shield. So if he were to go off the number 4, he could bring the phaser 1 to arc, but giving him that down shield is just too much to bear, so he's got to forgo the phaser 1 shot and take the phaser 3 shots. Gorn anchor. 2 directly allocated attractor. Vudar has no power to fight it or chooses not to fight it. That's where the Gorn fires off his last plasma and dumps out 2 shuttles. Unfortunately, they are not suicides. Would have been better if they were, but filling out the plasma card. There we go. F-torp, real. Launching the plasma. And then a moment, the 2 shuttles. Yes, even though we have microphones here, I am using the toggle for the SOP steps to do the sound effects, specifically so that it echoes the information to chat. Specifically for the video playback. Naming the shuttles. Should have been putting out the impulse of launch, but it's the last impulse, so there we go. And apparently the IG or IPG or whatever it is the Vudar has, it's an automatic damage of 4 when fired. So that'll happen here in a moment with the fire stage. We're about 1 hour and 28 minutes into the video at the real-time playback. I can't type worth a damn. Turn to I-32 Geyer. Yeah, fire stage. I think we're actually having a little bit of discussion on his defensive system, the IG or whatever it's called. Ion generator. Here I'm about to apply 4 damage to each, I believe. And I think I was waiting for my opponent there to type into chat the fact that he was firing it, but he never did do it. So that 4 damage was from his ion generator. And here's my 2 phaser 3s back. So 6 damage. So I'm keeping track of the damage on my side, and he's keeping track of the damage on his side. Even though we are pasting the images into Discord. It's sort of like a safety net. If something happens to his copy, or he accidentally deletes it or something, I have a copy here. I think that actually happens. He goes to crop it at one point and ends up deleting it instead of copying it. So after that point onwards, he's using my copy of the SSD. But anyway. And we go to energy allocation. So the Gorn is now out of plasmas. His last F-Torp is on the board. This is the second turn, however, needed launch on the first turn. Here I think we're having a little discussion on his post-deceleration period. So he's speed 0 on the first impulse, even if he pays for speed 10. Second impulse, he would be then speed 10. Of course, he's in a tractor, so that would be speed 5. And here, since I've launched all my shuttles, I'm placing 4 shuttle cards. I should have been on the board all along, but oh well. The default assumption is that they're always admin shuttles, so. And this time I remember to type in the power. And since I fired my phasers, if I want my phasers this turn, I gotta pay for them. And here I accidentally overpaid because I still have 1 point left in my phaser 1. I completely forgot about. So I threw away a point of power there. On the second turn of army, 1 S-Torp and 1 F-Torp. Asking my opponent if he's fighting his tractor beam or not. I'm counting how many transporters I have. I've only got 3. So I got half a point into the transporters. That'll power 2 transporters. Put half a point into the tractor beam. And then I've got 18 left, so whatever he wants to use to fight his tractor beam with, I have 18 to try and maintain it. So still waiting on his decision as to whether or not he's going to fight the tractor beam or not. was originally contemplating coming at speed 0 and tacking. Here, I put that 2 WI in the wrong column. I'll catch on to that here in a second. Still waiting on the opponent to determine whether or not he's going to fight tractor or not. I think he just said no, he's not going to fight it. So I throw in 3.5 for tractor. I got my batteries, a 5. Again, I'm playing with pneumonia here, so my concentration is not exactly the greatest. I think I just made a mistake on my energy allocation there. I forgot to discharge my capacitors at the end of turn 2. I think on turn 3, I think I forgot to recharge my batteries. And here I'm deleting my previous image. So since I got an attractor, my speed's cut in half as well. So you cannot HEG or attack on the first impulse. There, he takes a 20. And he has 19 reinforcement. So I got plenty of excess power here. That's kind of thrown away. Threw away a phaser. It's still armed, and I actually armed it again. Put 3 points in the tractor. I didn't really need to. And I got 7 reinforcement. So plenty of that would have gone for the batteries if I had clued in. can see here that he has declared his fire. I'm actually basically writing mine down in the pop-up window. Returning fire with 6 phaser 1s. And here I'm looking at when things were fired last. Looks like it was around pulse 17 or thereabouts. Just making sure that I'm able to fire all my phasers. And here I finally submitted my fire, revealed it. And 6 phaser 1s coming back. And we do 28 damage. He has 17 left on his shield. There's 11 internals. Damage here in a moment. So Vudar fired back with 6 phaser 1s, 1 phaser 2, 1 phaser 3. He had 25 points of damage. I had 10 reinforcement. So there would have been a little bit more damage on my number 1 shield there because of that battery foobar. It doesn't change the outcome of the game though. And this is the tedious part of the game. I'm going to have to mark damage manually. So I'm sticking the SSD on the other window so I can see both. Theoretically, I shouldn't have to mark it on my side because the opponent is. But, like I said, we do this anyway, just in case. In this particular case, it ended up being needed. The only annoying thing is you gotta find out what weapon your opponent is actually destroying. Oh, there's the damage. Vudar still has gotten the better of the exchange so far, even though the Vudar's got 11 internals. Gorn is down 2 battle shields, where the Vudar's only down 1. Gorn is pretty much empty of weapons. Plasma hits. I was waiting for an AGT or attack of some sort. There is none. This is where we do 2 sets of 10. And we start marking things off. I think here, as I was marking things off, I think we accidentally marked a few forward hull as aft hull. Because of me being a little bit delirious from the pneumonia and being unfamiliar with the Vudar ship. I think I did that maybe 3 times. It didn't cascade beyond the hull hits anyway, so it didn't make a difference. I think in the end he ran out of hull for the rear, but nothing got hit beyond rear hull. And of course it wouldn't have mattered anyway because he should have had his own copy. But something happens where he accidentally loses his copy and has to start using mine. halfway done. And he loses his second ion cannon. So he's got his A and B destroyed, and his 2 FX, C, and D are still there. Unusual number of 12 rolls. That one didn't copy properly, so I've got to copy and paste it again here in a second. There we go, there's his update. So he's got 2 like aft hull left, and he's out of forward hull. So he should have lost a couple batteries, but oh well. Here, a couple batteries or a couple of impulse engines more. It doesn't make a difference really. So that was firing of, that was damage from movement. And here we are going to hit run raids I think a second. I've got those 2 transporters paid for directly. Oh, we went to the next impulse. Interesting. So yeah, 2 hit run raids. And I forgot about the hit and run raid charts being right on the term SSD, so I had to go looking for it. So I'm hitting C and D torpedoes, asking if they're guarded, looking for the chart. Of course, this chart is basically just a page. I just need to find the specific one. So that's the chart I'm looking at. I'm looking to see what the die rolls are. Basically, I need to roll 1 to destroy the systems. Yeah, 1 is destroyed and 3 is boarding party destroyed system okay. Still looking for the proper chart. There we go. Now I find the chart. Basically, you always want to roll a 1 or a 2. Here I'm looking for my map window because there we go. That's the annoying thing is you get so many open windows you lose them. think here we're waiting for my shells that were launched in 32nd to come up. And drop the tractor beam. Should have done that impulse earlier than I did. Again, a little bit delirious from the pneumonia. I should have a phaser 1 that's now arcing. I think I completely forget about it. So shells launched in the 32nd impulse. Now have their phasers up and ready to fire. The shuttles were declaring fire, and at this point the Vudar concedes. And I think here I reveal all the cards for the shuttles. Normally those two shells would normally have been suicides, but I never did arm them as suicides because of the IG. And that was the end of the game. Hope you enjoyed the video, and I'll try and play it back at a faster speed.